Hello, these are my 61 tips for the Cycle Frontier. Hopefully these tips will be helpful whether you're new or an epic wearing, Jeff slaying super gamer. First, in the space station. Whenever you log in, the first thing you should do is clean out your generator. It doesn't do any good if it's capped off, if it's full. Go ahead and get your gear package, Aurum, insurance, or money. The currency that you pick up on the planet has to be sold, otherwise it's just taking up space in your inventory. Regardless of how good you are, your safe pocket is extra room for carrying things. The first upgrade for them is easy. For me, that's kind of the focus upgrade path, because regardless of how many times it's getting blasted into foam, at least I'm getting something out of the raid. Don't forget about your quarters upgrade as well. It limits what tier of research you can do, and it can sneak up on you if you're trying to do a particular research, but you're not actually able to. Selling to specific factions will increase your faction points with them. If you've got your eye on a specific gun they sell all your extra loot to that faction to make sure you level up faster. What is extra loot? Not much if you ask me. What items are always okay to sell? I don't really know. The old money, guns, armor, ammo, grenades. Everything else will sooner or later show up as a turn-in requirement for a job or a campaign quest. You'll find you'll sell something you have 50 of, and then you'll find a job that requires you to turn them in over and over again. I try to keep 2 stacks of everything I can, get rid of just basic guns that I end up with. If you're tight on inventory space, toss all your attachments on one of your guns. Attachments take 1 slot of your inventory each, and they don't take up any space when they're attached to a gun. Move on to quests. Keep your job for a faction active on one that needs to be done in raid, not a turn-in that you can't complete. So for example, if you have a turn-in job for 2 Rattler Eyes, there's no need to keep that active. It's just better to have a quest open that's something in raid, like killing or dropping something off. Some people don't realize this. I might not have. You can start all the campaigns as soon as they unlock. You can have multiple campaigns open for each faction. It's not just one at a time. The jobs work differently. It's one at a time with those, but you might as well have all the campaigns accepted. As far as quest priority goes, like what you should work on or turn in first, there are campaigns for each faction. Those give you big rewards like items, lots of faction experience, and there are jobs that they have. The jobs are repeatable. Usually they get a little bit repetitive. Some of them are turn-ins like handing material over. If you've got extra interactive screens, for example, maybe you want to turn them in for that quest and get the EXP and money for it. But the upgrades in your hideout are, in my opinion, always more important than the jobs. The upgrades are permanent improvements to currency generation rates, inventory size, that kind of thing, and you're going to feel dumb turning in all your compound sheets for a faction job that's repeatable when you needed them for an apartment upgrade. Let's talk gearing up. What kind of gun suits you? You'll see lots of tier lists for this game, but it kind of depends on what kind of FPS player you are. You're going to have trouble with the often recommended Scarab if you can't hit your shots with it, like me. So I tend to go for something that allows a little more spray. Think about getting gear based on the goal that you're going in with. If you're going to run in, grab some loot in an area surrounded by creatures, then bring in technical gear. It'll give you more stamina and you won't lose much if you die. Are your keys in your pocket? They weigh 0.1 each. Why aren't they there? There's no need to bring in multiple keys either, because you're only ever going to open up that door once in this raid. I've killed multiple people with keys not in their pockets, just in their backpack. I do not know why. I know a lot of people in this game don't use insurance, but if you have Aurum, what else are you saving it for or using it for? You might as well be spending it on insurance to get a gun that you want back. All right, now we're on the planet. Let's talk placement. If you're like me, you're frustrated you can't open the map while dropping in. Where the hell am I? There's actually a workaround for that. If you hit G, that brings up the objective screen. Hit that twice to open and then close the objectives, and then your M button for your map will work. Before you start running towards your objective, get an assessment of your drop-in. My understanding, which may be incorrect, is that each raid starts full of loot and you get maybe 12 people dropping in at the same time. If this happens, you'll see lots of drop pods all coming in at the same time. This means all the loot's there, you've probably got teams running around, it's dangerous out there. If instead you drop in and get a message like evac now available, it means the storm just ended. So people were running around in this instance for like 15 minutes already looting things, and you along with a smaller wave of prospectors are arriving. If you don't get either of those, you may just be dropping in and replacing some people who left the instance. I'm not clear on how an instance ends. I've seen a message before about the instance closing in like 20 minutes. It might have been a server update. This might be how all instances end, and there's a system to move everyone off the world to end that server. That being said, make use of the state of your server. If it seems dead or closing, well, it might be a good time to load up on data drives or something else that makes lots of noise, like mining. Along with being aware of what phase the instance is in as far as the storm cycle goes, be aware of what other players are doing by watching the evac ships and drop pods. Drop pods can come in real close to you sometimes, and the other way around. Your drop pod can land real close to someone who's been in the raid for a while, if you get one of those middle raid drops. One final thing about your instance awareness. Someone who has just pod dropped in, they're not exactly a valuable target. They've just got their gear they dropped in with and full health. Someone's evacing, on the other hand, they're surrounded by loud noises and are likely full of loot and might be missing some HP already. Let's talk movement and engagement. Being out of breath is so loud. This clip is me in a game without any compression or audio mixing. It's just me in a cave mining, and listen to what this guy sounds like trying to set up an ambush on me. Before engaging, do you know if it's a solo person, a team? You don't have to engage, especially if you have loot you want to get out with. Sometimes they see you staring at them though, and then you just have to. Before engaging, what about your weapon? Are they close enough for an effective kill? Do you need to charge in to be in an effective range for your weapon? When moving and making noise, sometimes you go through the motions and you're going to feel real dumb getting killed after looking directly at a guy. You can get into some pretty dangerous areas with high-level loot just by outrunning the creatures, using doors and climbing. It doesn't really matter if the building is surrounded by Jeffs, but make sure you know the area and what doors you have to use. If you think you heard something, you probably did, but the audio design in this game can be really tricky. Different areas have different ambient design. The windmills, for example, make a squeaking sound that sounds a lot like an evac transponder. Rain always sounds like distant steps, and creatures walking on metal will convince you you're about to die. Maybe you're used to it? I haven't gotten used to it yet. You may be inclined to shoot creatures that you see, but why? If you don't have a quest and don't need their materials, in most situations you can outrun or parkour around creatures and be much more quiet. Being strategically patient is a strategy. Just keep your cool and wait for the right moment, and someone may try and have the same idea as you. Creatures make distinct noises when they are chasing someone. Remember those sounds, because when you hear them and they're not chasing you, that's prime time to third-party some poor prospector. Don't run around at half health or missing any health if you can help it. A normal, non-upgraded sniper rifle can hit you for 70 damage, and that'll end your run real quick. Look up some of the puzzles that exist for this game. They'll unlock bigger loot rooms. There's lots of videos of them out there. They can be tricky to do on your own, but you'll get several loot boxes out of it. If you're feeling brave, you can stick around during the thunderstorm, especially if you position yourself in a place to do a puzzle while it's going on. The East Collection Point puzzle is good for that, and the dig site, if you're able to dodge the lightning bolts, is good. Waterfall Camp doesn't have any puzzles, but it's such a big loot area that you'll spend an entire lightning cycle exploring it safely. You can even do data drive upgrades during the storm, which completely cuts the risk of someone being alerted to that incredibly loud noise it makes. I've yet to run into someone during a storm, but it is extremely easy to run into a variant and get stuck or just get hit by lightning after looting an entire room. Leave at the right time. If someone's watching your evac ship, which is pretty obvious when it's coming down, you make a nice silhouette standing inside of it from most angles. So don't stand still and use the meter at the top to decide when to get in, but don't be too late either. In a pinch, you can use someone else's evac ship. Proxy chat might work if you want to sweet talk them, or just take it. This doesn't leave you much time to loot them and you feel terrible about yourself, but... Combat. It's extremely important to always hit your first shot. Wait for them to start looting something or catching their breath by stopping. Be mindful when they'll drop out of your view entirely, knowing that you'll probably have to shoot them twice, and if there's cover nearby, where they'll be hiding. If you get surprised on, read the hit indicator for their direction and get to cover. Sometimes the better armor just wins. That's not something you can read beforehand, although if you hear them shooting something, you can at least gauge their gun and try and put them at a disadvantage for the gun type they're using. I can't emphasize enough how important verticality is. You can kill striders and rattlers just by stepping to the side and being just out of melee range. Proxy chat. Talk your way out of bad encounters, but also it really helps with gauging their position. Remember, it works both ways though. They'll know exactly where you are if they're doing good directional sound. He's dead? I killed a man?
Yeah, you murdered him. How dare you?
Oh, Strider variants are blue. Be careful, they do not go down easy. Getting yourself pushed around by mobs into unexplored territory is a good way to die. Your focus should be on the unknown. I could have knifed or shot this guy instead. I tried to avoid combat by running into an uncleared area and died for it. Learn the creature movement. This will happen naturally as you play, but keep in mind there are triggers for them to be stunned, them doing a charge, and you can manipulate them to avoid obvious attacks and even melee them. Get used to your gun. A tricky part of the cycle and games like it is you put a gun together and you carry it around for like 15 minutes, then it comes down to a split second where you have to use it. We don't even have a firing range at the moment, so do your best to get a hold of a gun and get familiar with it. You can test how the gun works on creatures, difference of ADS and hip fire, reload speed, fire rate. I can't tell you how many times I've fired a gun at a player and realized how terrible the recoil was too late. When you do kill someone, always check for a teammate. Don't just assume you've won. After killing a creature or prospector, keep in mind how much noise you just made. If there's some juiced up PvPer looking to third party, he was just given the signal to move in. Or you could do the third partying to someone else. It works the same for you. You can usually get loot just by sticking around after a fight to clean up. Just make sure not to run directly in the middle of an ongoing fight. Let's talk about looting. Clear rooms before you loot, especially if it's a small room. All you're doing is giving someone the opportunity to shoot you while you're in a menu. Your looting is loud. Have you ever heard someone else open a dumpster? It's like activating a waterfall. Pretend you opening items like that is like calling in an evac ship. Everyone is going to notice. The safest place in the game is your pockets. Your pockets should always be full. The most valuable items go in there, even if it's just ammo. The danger level does indicate whether there's a Jeff or variance, but also indicative of the quality of loot that's in the area. If you're seeing open boxes or no loot around an area, it's probably not worth checking all the spots and wasting your time. It's just more efficient to move on than look for scraps, unless you're looking for scraps. There are some areas that spawn more of what you're looking for, be it Velicite, alloys, nutritional bars. You can look up the best spots, but this spot at the waterfalls is great when you're looking for that pure Velicite because there's like 8 veins and incredibly loud waterfalls to cover your noise. Nutritional bars are tough, but comm towers, especially if you have the server key, are my recommendation for the best places to get them. Keep an eye on your weight without actually having to open the window by looking at the little number above your item that you just looted. When struggling with your weight, equipped guns don't count towards your weight limit and you can toss attachments on them. Weapons will have different weights, so if you're just having a secondary weapon that you don't plan on using, just toss it in that slot with attachments on it to bring your weight down. Unless it's high level, there's very little value in bringing out guns, armor, and helmets. They just weigh too much, especially for things that you can buy in the station. Rusty items can't have attachments. They are absolute garbage. Ignore them unless you want to fight me. I have never died to a rusty weapon and I am terrible at this. At the end of your session, make sure your generators are empty so you can come back to more currency and ore 'em. Hope you enjoyed the tips, and please don't foam me. This is actually the first tip video I've done. What I normally do, rather than play good games poorly, is play bad games. GGN stands for Garbage Game Night, and every other Monday, I get together with some friends and introduce them to a game that is either in the discount bin or was poorly received. I give a look into its history, and we talk about whether it's worth picking up or recycling some material from, and give it a score on our Garbage Valley score system. We're looking for games that are so bad they're good, and I think it's fun anyway. We've actually just released our 61st episode. Get it? 61 tips, 61 episodes. I don't know if I can do another tip video. It's too many. You can find these anywhere podcasts are, or this YouTube channel, and me streaming those recordings on twitch.tv/GGNcast. Feel free to stop by and participate. Good luck, prospectors. If you have any good starter tips, let me know.